The views and opinions expressed on this podcast are those of the hosts and guests as individuals, and do not necessarily reflect those of advertisers or sponsors. This show is intended as entertainment and commentary only. The producers strive for verisimilitude, but nothing said on this podcast should be taken as fact by the listener or viewer without performing due diligence.
Existence, the physical universe, is basically playful. There is no necessity for it whatsoever. It isn't going anywhere. That is to say, it doesn't have some destination that it ought to arrive at.
This is Keep Your Hat On, a show by three nerdy nobodies and one nerdy kinda a somebody about nothing in particular. Keep Your Hat On is brought to you by the Narrow Band Broadcast Network, NBBN, the focus is on you. By Andrew Scott Media. And by the kind support of KYHO fans everywhere via Patreon. Patreon. Create on your own terms.
Coming up on this episode, the boys get... Oh, hi. I'm Synth Andrew, and you are?
Your worst nightmare.
I don't have nightmares, at least not yet. That algorithm's still in beta. So what can I do for you?
Easy. Bend over.
Oh, God.
Okay,
oh, God.
I'm finally back from the wilderness. You don't need to know more.
Or something?
Anywho, here's the boys, Andrew, Robert, Dr. Mark, and,
oh my God,
you can do the last line by
I'm sorry, Mr. Bermunch.
Toaster Boy.
Yes, sir. And making intense eye contact from across a crowded room, it's Chris.
Yeah, I do. It's the badge of honor.
Yeah. So, at any rate, I was, I'm going to back up just for the sake of the recording.
Bless your heart. You're such a pro.
So, my Christmas present for my wife was supposed to be a hurdy-gurdy. She had found something on Etsy. It was at a reasonable price. It was kind of a toy, but that's what I was looking for until I could decide whether,
Here we go.
whether that's what I really wanted to do.
Right.
So Christmas, it started to come around, and we looked at it again, and they were nowhere to be found on Etsy. And when we further researched it, we found there was a number of people that had ordered from Etsy.
Nice.
That were throwing a little bit of shade in that these people had just ghosted them.
And what price are we talking about for this?
I think we were talking like $120.
Okay, so this literally was like a toy hurdy-gurdy.
This was just going to be the toy hurdy-gurdy to see whether this was something that I really wanted to do.
Right.
And so when this disappeared, we started to do some research because, damn it, I wanted a hurdy-gurdy.
How many times do I say that a day?
And so here we go. I started going down the rabbit hole, the hurdy-gurdy rabbit hole. There is only two luthiers. Hurdy-gurdy hole. Just like the way that rolls off the tongue.
Oh, yeah.
That sounds right and it sounds wrong.
Yeah. So there's only two luthiers. Only two folks in the Western Hemisphere, apparently, that make these. Or at least on the Western seaboard. And they ain't cheap.
Right.
They ain't cheap. They start at $1,000. And they quickly escalate from there, depending on what you want, right?
Right.
And so I was like, poopy. No hurdy-gurdy for Christmas. That's a little bit expensive, especially
you didn't want one of those.
Yeah, really.
I didn't want it anyway.
These are not the droids you're looking for.
Right.
Right? And so, the inevitable question came up. So, okay, if we can't get you a hurdy-gurdy, what do you want for Christmas? And so I've been snowboarding like the last 4 or 5 years, and I've been doing it on a bunch of hand-me-down equipment. Just to kind of see whether this was something I wanted to do. And this year I decided, maybe my snowboarding would be vastly improved if I got the right equipment and not everybody else's equipment.
Start playing the dramatic string swell of tension.
So what I got these new Burton boots and bindings. And these are step-ins.
Right.
These things are just amazing. They offer some amazing control. So I got these. These things were $650. You have to get the boots.
Hurdy-gurdy.
You have to get the boots with
half a
the
Gertie.
binding.
Half a Gertie.
Half a
Gertie. It's just a
All
Gertie.
right.
You're only
There you
getting
go.
a Gertie.
Now, see, a half Gertie sounds like a
That sounds
snowboarding
like-
move.
Right? Yeah, that totally sounds like
Half
something
Gertie.
off the pipe, right?
I
So
hope we're
Go
recording
ahead.
this.
Continue.
Oh, we are.
So, I've got this new equipment, fancy new equipment. It's very proprietary. You got to get the special boots with the special,
Thing and the stuff with
yeah,
thing.
And the
that's
place
right.
and the guy.
Right.
But let it be known that I'm still on a snowboard that is like
A hand-me-down.
it's less than a hand-me-down. I think I bought it out of a seedy parking lot from a Russian gentleman for like $45, right?
Yeah.
Nice.
It was
He's very
this-
good board.
45
Yeah.
bucks.
And how did you know what he said?
Yes, he's very good. You like this one.
So, Hanako's like, dude, I spent that money, right? You better fucking go.
Oh, man.
Well, yeah.
Better go, and you better go more than once. Because if you don't go more than once this year, I'm going to be fucking pissed. And
Are
I
you
was
still
like,
on the hurdy-gurdy listserv? So, I mean, that's the other question that I want to know. If you're on those private hurdy-gurdy groups on Facebook,
Right.
at the meantime, in the meantime,
I'm 4chan.
you
I-
exchange techniques. It's a thing.
Yeah.
yeah.
So the wife is pissed off and
she wants
insisting
me-
that you hurdle yourself down a mountain.
I go,
Okay,
right?
all right.
And I was like, dude, you don't have to,
Right?
Shit, kick me in the ass. What?
Literally push me out
Yeah,
the
don't
door.
You just
me
gave me the
twice.
green light to spend all the money that I needed to go more than once. I am good. So here we are. We're on the second trip, which was on the 17th, St. Patty's Day.
Right.
Now, the weather here in Oregon has been doing some weird things, right?
Yeah,
Usually,
the mountain's been okay, but I know that the March weather up there was like wet and breaking down the snowpack.
but right now, Timber just got like in the last 24 hours, like 19 inches of snow. I'm salivating.
That does not help you now.
I am so salivating. And then looking at Mammoth, holy shite. Mammoth just got like 600 and some inches
Yeah,
I'll take the snowpack
over
God
the last
knows.
week.
Yeah.
they're overdue. How much of that's going to sink in, by the way? As opposed to
It's-
like just
it's
running
not-
off, right? That's the problem.
We want the runoff here because Mount Hood and most of the snowpack in the Cascades actually feeds our drinking and irrigation
Here's
water.
the problem.
Yeah.
It's not about whether the ground will take it.
Yeah.
Is the ground will saturate and we'll take that,
And super
provided
saturate, yeah.
that the melt off is not fast.
Yes. If it's
Right.
fast, we got problems.
If we
Because
fast,
then it's all surface. Yep.
yeah. California will just still be in drought, right? And
Yep.
Mammoth is not going to fix their problem. But
No.
at any rate, I'm on my like second or third run, and the weather at the beginning of March was minimal at best, right?
Yeah.
So it was spring skiing at that point, which means
Yeah, we lost the mountain cold to keep things really viable. We
It
started
goes-
going down into that slush pack a little bit.
Yeah, it goes to about 35 or a little under 35, like maybe 33, 34
Yeah.
during the late afternoon, and then freezes back up. And so this makes for a condition called that most boarders and most skiers will know. It's called fast and wet.
Yep.
And basically what it is it's a bunch of slush that is kind of sort of melting, and it's on
Semi-frozen, yeah.
top. It's on top of this basically a layer of ice.
Yeah, it's the
Right?
crunchy.
Yeah,
it's the
it's hard
crunchy
pack.
outer. Yeah, it's the crunchy outer coating of the pour-on ice cream goo that we used to get as kids. That would like.
Look, it's Magic Shell, the topping that makes ice cream even better. Magic Shell pours on soft, then turns hard. Plain ice cream is good, but Magic Shell makes it
crackling good.
Getting a cherry on top is pretty tricky, because Magic Shell hardens to a thick chocolate shell. What do you think of Magic Shell?
Crackling good.
Magic Shell.
Crackling good.
Is that would like freeze on contact?
Oh yeah, like chocolate dipped ice cream.
Yeah, pretty much. So it just equals hazardous.
It's typical spring skiing, really.
It's
but
not
I generally don't go spring skiing because of this, right?
Yeah,
right.
But I didn't think that these were going to be the conditions. Looking at the report, it looked like.
And in your defense, she told you to get your ass on the mountain.
Yeah,
and that's true. It's true. Yeah. So I'm up there, and I get on the hill the first run, and I'm thinking, man, this stuff is fast and wet. I don't know whether this is really going to be an enjoyable day or not.
Again, with the music right here. Insert music here. Yeah,
but we go. It's challenging. It's much more challenging
than you want it to be. That you feel comfortable with.
Let's take a minute here and let's discuss Robert's skill level. They call me Baby Driver. Robert's skill level
is it going to take that long? Really?
No,
is it going to take that?
It's not as great as it should be. Only because I point back to the hand-me-downs and all this stuff. So I'm working out the kinks of this new equipment, right? So the first time I went up, I had the binding, the backs of the bindings all the way at zero, right, straight 90 degrees. I ended up stretching overextending a hamstring. Tendon. And so that took a few weeks. And so I'm like, okay, I got to fix this. So, change the pitch from zero, a little bit.
Kept back over.
Took it all the way forward. No, I took it all the way forward.
Wow. Okay.
And my pal is like, dude, man, it looks dangerous when you catch those, when you start to do the front and toe turn, right? It looks like you're going to catch a ledge. An edge, and basically what that means is
snaps your ankle right there. Is that
no? You catch the edge of the board and it throws you and bucks you.
Yeah, it digs you down. You dig down, and
I see.
Your momentum takes you over,
and it flops you.
Essentially, you're doing an end over on your board.
Important to remember.
Dramatic reverb.
So I go down. I get this thing adjusted.
Foreshadowing, everyone.
I adjust it back a little bit, and it's feeling good. The responsiveness is great. I'm at the top of this run. I'm trying to stay, because it's fast and wet, I'm trying to stay on the green runs. Anybody that's ever skied or board knows what those are. So I'm just until I dial this in, I want to stay on the green runs. So I'm coming up to this side. I start to sideboard. Anybody that knows that's done this knows what the sideboard is. I'm going into a sideboard move, and I catch the ledge. And it throws me so hard I don't even have a chance to put my feet or my hands in front of my body to catch myself.
Yeah.
And I land solely on this shoulder. That is the only point of contact with the initial energy of the fall. Anybody that's slipped on ice knows that it seems like you just accelerate when you're in the
hard pack. Yep.
And you don't even have the benefit of soft pack. You are drilling your shoulder into slush and hard pack.
Yes.
And gravity is a bitch.
Yeah. It's very, very interesting. We'll talk about that in just a minute. But here's the result. Mildly displaced greater tuberosity fracture of the right humerus.
They gotcha.
Not only did I get myself, I got myself good. Didn't really break the arm.
Good.
Where the hell was Gwyneth Paltrow when you need her?
That's right.
Right?
Dude, you could have set us up for the podcast for the rest of your life with just a quiet buyout from her.
Right. Yeah, it's true.
Yeah, 1.1% of Goop income we would have been silent. And you wouldn't even have,
those vagina-smelling candles
you
right
wouldn't
there.
even have to tout the hoo-hoo rock. You could just smell the candle.
The yoni stone.
Well, apparently we started the episode. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Keep Your Shoulder in Place. I'm Andrew Scott. That, of course, is Ty Owie Anthony, along with Dr. Mark Peterson and, of course, Christopher Cano.
Man, it hurts just thinking about it.
Yeah, it does. I've already had to be the Thai taxi a few times, but at least that's something I can do. So, Robert, how are you feeling? You are now mostly undopified, which was your text. I could tell from your texts, just how relaxed you were.
I don't have a very high tolerance for pain medication.
Right.
And so they gave me some pretty strong pain medication, right?
Mm-hmm,
And on the advice of the medical professionals in my world,
you took it, right?
I took it, right? They said, you know what?
Well,
and I found out, right? Yeah, that's the problem. Exactly.
There you go. Yeah.
I found out, but there's a paradox here because, I found out it is better to be in front of the pain from the very gate than try to catch up.
Oh, yeah, rather than chasing it. Yeah, I can tell you that.
My first week was spent on hydrocodone.
Nice.
One full pill every 4 hours.
Good stuff.
Which, let's say that the
side effects,
If I get my way, I'm playing White Rabbit right now in the background. We'll try.
I spent the first week just numb on the couch.
Yeah. Which honestly is the better thing for you to be doing at that point. Your body is in revolt, and you're so inflamed. Even parts of your body that aren't attached to your shoulder are inflamed because of just the sheer amount of injury endorphins your body is pumping into you. Going, dude, what did you do?
Yeah.
So
don't like the feeling of it, but there it is. I felt like it was a good chance to just be sedated on the couch and let myself heal a little bit.
And now, of course, I'm trying to play the Ramones. Okay, so we're...
That would be okay.
Right?
We need the Ramones played on hurdy-gurdies next.
Somebody get on the interwebs and find that shit, because I imagine...
Gabba, gabba, hey!
Right? Yeah, oi, oi, oi. What's the prognosis, Ty? Now, I know that you went. Did you go in and get more needlework done? Did you get that done yet? I forgot where we left off last week.
I haven't done any needlework. Needlework.
We're not talking about sewing a sampler. We're talking about you go in and get essentially a kind of acupuncture every once in a while.
It's called dry needling, and what it does is
the chiropractors love that stuff these days. They've come around to that. Are you going to a chiropractor or like a regular physical therapist for that?
Now in my life, I have a chiropractor that is a physical therapist. So
that is kind of a nice combo. I'll say that. As I was telling Ty, I'm not a huge fan of chiropractology because magnets, but there's some good science there, and I like the idea of a chiro that's actually a licensed PT.
Yeah, that's cool.
And for my dry needling, I actually go see a doctor who is an acupuncturist.
Sure.
So we separate those two things. But the prognosis is, went to the orthopedic surgeon. At the moment, no surgery. So no pins, no anything else.
When you texted me from the mountain, you said that they were at the mountain clinic. They were talking about literally Frankensteining you back together, bolts and screws and all that is.
Well, they were definitely preparing. So here's the deal. So it's what they call a closed fracture.
Right.
So my fracture is 3 millimeters. That is the cutoff point. Any more than that, and you're definitely looking at reconstruction.
Yeah.
or some type of reconstructive.
You just underachieved enough to keep yourself
just
away
got,
from surgery.
I got
that
into
is
it.
though. Is that really what it is?
No, I was
Always look on the bright side of life, man.
Yeah, I was just right on that line, and so it was really up to the ortho. And right now, thank you.
Of course.
And it hasn't. As long as it hasn't moved this next visit, I'm in the clear there.
So, you're saying they're watching for that 3 mil to expand or not?
Yeah, they're looking to see.
Okay.
It's not exactly in place, but it's close enough in place. If it starts to wander a little bit,
zoinks.
We could talk about. We might be talking about pins.
Welcome to the
4 old
50s,
guys
man.
talking about their health.
Well, I'm going for my colonoscopy this week. That's what they
look
gave
for
me.
that next.
That's a sliding doors moment right there, Andy. That's
They gave
Good night, folks. Good night, folks.
A gallon. I have to drink a gallon of something.
Yeah, well, you do.
But
did I tell you this was a sure sign of my adulthood. I was one of my second or third colonoscopy, sometimes in that zone. And at this point, no, it must have been in the 4s. Because I was already, I know the doctor really well now, and they're getting ready to put me out. And I'm actually so badass now that I don't even get anesthetized for the colonoscopy. I stay awake and watch now.
Okay.
Because it's weird but fun. But I'm laying on the table, and I'm talking to my doctor, and we're joking about how always this is just always indignity, and the nurse who's running the anesthetic looks up and she goes, "Dr. Peterson, is that you?" Former student.
Nice.
I guess we're going to get to know each other better. At least you finished college. That's great. That's great.
There was a girl in high school that I really, really dug. Really dug. Flash forward to about 1990. I have a terrible impacted hemorrhoid. Hi, welcome to the show, folks. Anyways, so this required emergency intervention. Hemorrhoid.
Oh, yeah.
So I am in possibly, and I've been in many questionable positions in my life.
We know.
That's a different. That's on the dark web version of Warheads right there.
This is the 8chan channel version of this. I am in one of the most vulnerable positions in my life, and this wonderful doctor comes in and says, I'm not going to do the accent, even though it makes it funnier, but I'm trying to be a good boy today. And they say, "Would you mind terribly if I would bring in some of our student nurses?"
Wait, just a minute, Andy. Even though you're not going to do the accent,
was she Jamaican or something? What was
can you fill us in a little bit?
She was a wonderful Pakistani doctor.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
And I am taking Hank Azaria's lead and not doing an Indian or Punjabi accent.
Yeah, you don't want to do that unless you can really nail it.
Well, I can, but still, it's like I look good in an Indian headdress, but you'll never see me wear one. But says, "Do you mind if I bring in some student nurses to observe this procedure?" And I was like, "Look, if somebody can learn and benefit from my behind, so be it." And so I thought it was 2, maybe 3.
Ex-girlfriend?
11 student nurses come in.
Oh, that's not a procedure. That's theater. That's medical theater, right?
That's why they call it a surgical theater. Come on.
I know 3 of them, and one of them who walks around and literally does this. Andy. And I'm just like, "Oh, seriously?" And it's her. And she's like, "I saw your name on the chart and I just wanted to say hi." And I'm like, Hi.
It's time to go to sleep. Put me to sleep, please.
No, right. Please is what it was. No, I wasn't getting that.
Me now.
They numbed up my butt. And the long and the short of it is I had a hemorrhoid so bad that if the blood clot would have let go, I would have had a heart attack and died.
Oh, wow.
How embarrassing would it have been to have died from a hemorrhoid?
How do you get a hemorrhoid like that big?
Or
that badass?
Literally sitting out on cold concrete steps for too long. That was my smoking ritual. And they said, that'll do it. It'll collapse a vein and you'll wind up having
smoking is bad for you.
Exactly. Boy, I wish you think I would have learned then. Well, I tell you what, folks, we're going to take a quick break.
Wait. I got one more thing before we come back.
Oh, okay, good.
Because it doesn't stop giving here. So, I'm on my first week. This happened on Friday. Saturday night, I'm eating some pear chips, and I crack a tooth.
That's right. Okay, you're right. You were right to stop me.
Now have to go in Friday for oral surgery to have the tooth. And you should see, by the way, the roots. The roots are like even the dentist. The dentist looks at the
roots are as big as your head,
dude. The dentist comes in and she goes, "Oh my, those are very, very big roots." And I'm like,
"Well, thank you."
But she's in there and she's explaining this and she's going, "Well, I may have to shave some of the bone from your jaw, in which case I'm going to give you," wait for it. I can't even remember the name of those pills.
Oh, you're saying for you to wait for it?
Oh, back on the hydrocodone?
Yeah, right. She's gonna. Yeah. Thank you. She's gonna. She goes, "Oh, I'll give you a prescription of hydrocodone," and I was just like, "Oh, fuck."
I need to spend more time in the bathroom.
Right. Well, and on that note, we will be back in just a minute.
Where's your Gwyneth Paltrow now?
Right.
Where she's on the slopes.
She's back.
Where are you?
Yeah, we'll be back in just a second. This is Keep Your Hat On. I'm Andy. That's Ty. That's Chris. That's Dr. Mark. We'll be back in a second. Don't go anywhere. Bye. Out. Yeah, good times this past couple weeks. And hello and welcome back to Keep Your Hat On, the show where hell even we don't know where we're going to go. I'm Andrew Scott, along with Dr. Mark Peterson and Ty Robert Anthony and Christopher Vacano. And speaking of Gwyneth Paltrow, I don't know if I'll say that this is one of my favorite movies. It's definitely not one of my favorite movies. I don't think there is such a thing with Gwyneth Paltrow in it, but that's just me. Of course, one of the
Proof was awesome.
Oh, well, that's true. Okay, and I'm not saying
Iron Man.
I'm not, whatever.
Well, yeah.
I'm not saying that she's a bad actress. I'm saying that most of the stuff that she winds up in, I'm not particularly interested in. But there is one exception to that, and that is the movie Sliding Doors.
You sad wanker.
I did enjoy that when it first came out. I think I've seen it twice, all said and done. I haven't ever gone back consciously to watch it again, but it's an interesting premise. The premise of Sliding Doors, of course, is essentially a dumbed down version of the many worlds theory from quantum mechanics.
Yeah,
this idea that we make choices in our lives and they take us in a particular direction. And of course, everybody at some point or another kind of goes, well, I wonder what life would be like if I would have made the B decision or the C decision, or if that decision was taken out of my hands and made for me. And that's really what the movie Sliding Doors is about. Now, Chris, I'm laying this at your door because this was your idea. But I do,
that says a lot.
Right? I find Part of me struggles with this idea of looking back on my life and wondering what if. We, as Zen nerds, are kind of told, don't waste your time with that. There's really nothing fruitful in that discussion.
Wondering about those things.
Yeah, because they are the past. And of course, we're supposed to be rooted in the present, blah, blah, blah. Mm-hmm. And I do
whatever
blah,
that
blah,
is.
blah. Right, I do blah, blah, blah. There you go, exactly. But Chris, you brought this up and you said that this kind of did really present something to you when you thought about that. And so the floor is yours in this regard.
Yeah, and first of all, I'll agree, we should be mindful and in the present. But I feel it's also kind of inescapable to look back at particular decision points in your life and just wonder, even lightly, this whole idea sort of emerged when, Andy, you and I were having a conversation about back in the day when we had, we were younger men with more connections and we were getting free shows, access to free shows. Yeah, okay. And my angle of attack was I was schlepping equipment for for a local music video and a music interview show called Music Link in Denver. And, my job was basically set up lights, haul equipment. I was basically sort of a roadie for this show. And we always pretty much worked at one of like three or four venues. But our most frequent venue was the Mercury Cafe in Denver. And, I got to see a lot of free, wonderful shows. And the exciting part, the cool part was hanging out with the artists afterwards and getting to know them.
Yeah,
actually having, very real conversations with these artists. Well, okay. So one of these particular filmings that we did at the Mercury, a band was just going around town to town. It wasn't actually a show. They were going around doing sort of a promotional tour where they would do a little bit. They would do these local video shows, right? And do a little performance and have a conversation with the host. And they were, this was a band called October Project. Maybe you've heard of them. Maybe you haven't.
I remember October Project.
Dimly, yeah, weird. Cool.
October Project. They are a wonderful band. If you haven't heard them, I highly recommend you check them out. They've since broken up, but they were in town. They were doing a performance, and at this time, I'm a young 20-something. I'm still very shy. I'm not the Chris I am today, and I picked up on, as I'm kind of working around in the room and managing lights and doing all of that, I keep having these across the room, like intense eye contact moments with one of the members of the band. Her name is Marina Balaika. She's a violinist. She's incredibly talented. But this was definitely mutual, intense eye contact moments. And I was an absolute chicken shit and did not go over and talk to her. And that is my sliding doors moment right there, is if I had just mustered the courage,
if only, right?
I wonder, it might not have, obviously they were moving town to town. They're on the East Coast in New England. I'm not suggesting it ever would have become anything major, but I might have made a new friend that day.
There you go.
And
it's true.
So that's my sliding doors moment. And if there's anything you can ever do about the past, here it is. Marina, if you're out there and you happen to be watching this, I remember that. And I think about it.
Yeah, we're not laughing at you, Chris. We're laughing at the fact that we actually have 14 viewers. The sheer absurdity, Chris.
Yeah, now you watch. The fact that you've dismissed this,
yeah, boy,
you watch.
I tell you, I will wait for that text saying, guess who just texted me?
Yeah. Right.
God,
hey, Chris, are you gonna leave your text information out?
No, not on YouTube.
That's what Google Voice is for, man.
Yeah.
So having that laid in place as the groundwork, one of the things that when I do allow myself to think about these things, I tend to focus more on what the trajectory of my life would have been going in a different direction. And I have a history of being in weird places at very weird times.
Yes.
Mark, I got a feeling though that do you have a real sliding door moment in your head? Because I can probably seed you with one.
Well, you could try. So, my experience has been.
He said seed.
I never heard that.
Stop with the ASMR.
Beavis.
I can't do the cornholio with my earplugs in.
I will tell you.
Yeah, there you go.
I will tell you that
my favorite picture of you ever is that picture of you as cornholio that you
did.
I
was in Latvia.
My God.
We really lost our shit that night. I think I was still the cultural anime was just like
was hydrocodone involved?
No. Exactly. Living in a Russian style apartment in Riga in November was what was involved.
Because that's where I was going to send you. That's what I was going to seed you with is Riga.
Riga was a real, it was one of those places I wasn't supposed to ever be. And it was only because Peg had been in the Peace Corps there. And when I got that sabbatical that year and we'd shacked up, I said, what if we went to Spain? And she goes, well, I have research money to go back to Riga. I was like,
Spain concrete jungle,
Mediterranean, Baltic,
brutalist architecture.
It did turn out to be one of the great weird. It's like I've lived in a lot of weird places, not quite under the same circumstances you have, Andrew, but I have lived a lot of weird places, and I'm just sort of so grateful for that. But there was one weird correlation though with going to Riga, and sometimes you get these weird synchronicities set themselves up. So I was supposed to go to Nerja in southern Spain, which is called the balcony of Europe. It overlooks the Mediterranean. And so I had a friend who had really good contacts in Spain, and so we're going to go there. Well, so I was supposed to go to Nerja, which he said moving in here now. Wait a sec, I got it. Oh yeah, Malaga. So Nerja is sort of like between Malaga and Cartagena, something like that. Okay. We had managed to navigate Riga for several months, and then we went on a field trip with the university where Peg was working, and we went to this place on the Baltic where Thomas Mann had done all of his writing, and it's called the Neringa Spit, and it's this weird sandbar that stretches across from Latvia down across Lithuania and over across Kaliningrad all the way to Gdansk, and but it's spelled the same as Nerja, but in Lithuanian Neringa. So I always thought that was like, so that the universe is just fucking with me now by giving me, you wanted Nerja here, except it's in Lithuania. We could probably just cut all that. I will tell you the one thing that's kind of interesting to get to the Zen thing is that I've had the unremitting certainty actually across my entire life that my karma is glacial and adamantine, and that I have never had a sliding door moment because I never got to make a choice or an accidental circumstance, unless my entire life is this weird, I was the product of a series of accidents. Wasn't that Sirens of Titan? Yeah. Anyway, Malachi Constant. In my whole life, we always moved about a year or two before I would have set up permanent relationships. Always. You know what I mean? And so it's like, I'm in Minneapolis till
that explains so much.
Right? Maybe. But like second grade.
It's like a meta sliding doors moment.
In a weird way, it's like my whole life is nothing but sliding doors. And so it's like I've just, run through it. But I've always been in the moment of it. But it's like, so we moved to Sweden from Minneapolis, and then I was there for 2.5 years. If I'd stayed there another year, it probably would have become more Swedish than I am. But no, we moved to suburban Chicago, where I went to high school with Ferris Bueller.
Yeah.
And essentially, and I was there, but then my dad had a midlife crisis, and we moved from there to Mobile, Alabama.
Oh,
at the end of my junior year. So I spent my senior year in a private Catholic high school in Mobile. Yeah, that was a really interesting year.
I get it now.
So anyway, but it's been like, and then from there I went to Toronto, and from Toronto I went to Florida, and from Florida I ended up here finally. So it's like, so I don't know unless my whole life is sliding doors. There could be that, I guess that could be the alternative.
Well, and the whole thing that this brings up, of course, is the idea of free will. That's something that's presupposed in the sliding door phenomena, is that you actually have a choice in the matter.
Yeah, see, we could run into that if you like to, because
I'm a whole different show.
Yeah, I could stop it in a heartbeat. But I think there's no such thing.
No.
I think it's
see, here we go. Here's that argument. Yep.
I think there's no such thing, because I don't know what it would be.
I get you. I remember going through this with you, and I remember watching all the kids in class get nauseous when we started.
It's part of the joy. Yeah, it's
right?
the joy. The fun part about the Naringa spit is that it's where the Soviet hierarchies all had their summer cottages.
Their dachas.
Yeah. Oh, and they, I always thought, I thought outside Moscow. No, they had it like on the coast there, because on the coast, I didn't learn this until I was there. On the coast, they could get TV from Sweden.
Well, that would have been a thing back then, I suppose.
Oh my God! If you're a Soviet official, you get to see the free press.
The free press. No, I'm pretty sure at that point in time they were all very excited to be able to see Facts of Life, or possibly Growing Pains.
Mork and Mindy, this Mork is really funny.
This Mork, he make me laugh.
Yeah.
Now it's probably
I don't know.
Women with oligarchs.
Yeah. So I don't know what to tell you about. I don't know what to tell you about sliding doors, except, it's like, because I never had those particular moments, unless every one of those moments is some weird thing happened. In a weird way, looking back, it's like, when I think about what would have happened had I stayed in those places. So if I'd stayed in Chicago another year, I would have been at the University of Chicago, for instance, where my dad had been working.
Right.
And University of Chicago students are their own weird breed. And it's true.
They're certainly not Northwestern.
No, or Toronto. I'm just going to say.
Are you throwing shade?
Oh yeah,
a little bit.
Yeah. Lenny. Well, not Henny Youngman. Who's the other guy? There was another comedian at the time used to do this. Used to do a routine about University of Chicago students.
Squiggy?
Not Henny Youngman, no. Anyway, come back to me. But it's like, whenever I think about any of these other places, if I'd stayed there and then followed that particular trajectory out, every one of them would have been unbelievably dull compared to what I've actually gotten to do.
Yeah. Well, but that is, that's the crux of the sliding doors mental exercise.
Well, they end up in the same place. Remember, that's the thing, though. Both Gwyneths end up back in the same spot.
Well, what's interesting is there is a tangent of the many worlds theory that actually is kind of that all major decisions wind up existing.
Well, they're entangled, right?
Yeah, exactly. They're entangled, and they present themselves at different points in different timelines, but they're all consistently there, which I never quite understood mechanically how that would work.
I would argue that the movie that just won the Oscar, Everything Everywhere All at Once,
which I have to admit I have not seen, and I've been dragged by more people about not seeing that movie than almost anything else that's come out in the last 10 years.
Movie. I'm not going to drag you for it, but I'm going to say, it is well worth your time.
Yeah, it was worth it.
Okay,
it's one surprising. Of those movies where the first time you watch it, you kind of go, oh yeah, that was cool, but I feel like I missed something. So you go back and you watch it again, and then you get really kind of tuned into it, and you go, oh, this is really good.
All right, fair enough. Well, I tell you what, we're going to jump away to another quick break. When we come back, we're going to have more sliding door moments. I'll try to do some kind of sliding door graphic here, but this is the Narrowband Broadcast Network. This is Andy, Ty, Chris, Dr. Mark. We'll be back. Don't go anywhere. Bye. We're back on the Narrowband Broadcast Network. I'm Andrew. That's Dr. Mark. That's Chris and Ty. It's your turn to slide some doors. What do you got in this phenomenon?
So it's kind of interesting because I'm
We'll see.
Huh?
Yeah, you are. Yes. I'm sorry.
Oh, I love you. No, I think you're awesome, Dr. Mark. I think you're just awesome.
Man, I'm sorry. I'm still mad about this whole brisket thing. Go on.
Right? Damn instant pots.
And hurdy-gurdies in the same day.
Right?
It's a cavalcade of failures.
Right?
That's what it is. Go on, Ty. Don't listen to me. Go ahead. Go on.
First of all, has you it sounds like we, Chris and Andy have a shared history of our youth, in that we all did a little bit of roadie work.
Yep.
And for those of you 14 folks that are listening and watching,
and the numbers are going up now. We got that one gal with Chris's.
There's one more.
She's going to bring her friends, right? There's a really good documentary, and I just recently revisited it about life on the road as a roadie, and it's called Miles Before I Go to Sleep.
Yeah.
Miles to Go Before I Go to Sleep.
Yeah.
And so if anybody really wants the straight dirt on what it looks like to be a roadie and what that life entails at a professional level.
Emphasis on dirt, both metaphorical and real.
And you are.
As far as these sliding glass door moments, there's always that moment where I wonder if I should have zagged instead of zigged, right? Obviously my shoulder being one of them, right? I had, I did some, wildland forest fighting, in another life. And I had a crew boss. We were in a place called Hell's Canyon. And if you've ever been there, you know why.
Yeah, it's name.
And every year this place goes up, and every year, as a matter of fact, some of what has happened, the history of firefighting and Hell's Canyon is why we have some of the regulations that we have.
Yeah. That place taught us a lot of lessons.
There's some burnovers and some deaths that have resulted in, and they're pointed to their story.
Yeah.
I mean, they're textbooked.
Yeah, bad execution of firefighting technique.
But as we're there, right, and we're on this, 75-degree grade of rock, of shell rock, and the fire's up above us, right? And as the dirt heats up, it gives way, and these boulders come down.
Zoinks.
One of the greatest pieces of advice that I was ever given is don't run. When you see the rock freeze in place, try to get an idea of where it's going. And don't commit until the last possible second.
Sure, because that rock coming down, if you're judging from up there and it suddenly hits the point of a rock, it kicks in a different direction that you just jumped. Now you got a face full of rock.
Do people actually, so people run into rocks when these things, so the running actually, because they're not thinking about it, it'll just roll down and clobber you. But if you think about it, you have a chance.
Well,
and it's similar exactly to what Andy was just saying. So any little thing can throw, this thing is a VW bus engine rolling down a hill.
Right? On a giant pachinko machine. Yeah.
I am not lying to you. This thing is the size of a VW, if not a VW bug. It's coming at me, and he's like, "Nope, wait for it, because the thing is what Andy is describing is exactly right. It can hit a branch at that point, at that speed, at that velocity, and change trajectory.
And so, you want to do your move at the last second because you don't want to get hit in the head. You don't want to get hit in the chest, torso, or shoulder. If you jump out of the way and the thing just plows into your legs, you'll live, or the chances of you living are better.
Well,
but
maybe.
I was just going to say, we're arguing very fine semantics there. But
the other thing that my crew boss said is in a situation like this, in a circumstance like this, you don't have a chance to commit a second time. You've only got one chance to commit.
That's actually
And so that's kind of something that I've kind of lived my life by. I guess if we're talking about sliding glass doors, the place I would go would be the divorce of my parents. Or the death of my mother at an early age. And again, not a choice that is in my control, but
that was
how
put
would
upon you.
that have changed my trajectory, right?
Yeah.
Where would I be now? Given that, I mean, aside from all that, I don't really give a great deal of thought about it because the past is something to learn from, not to dwell in. And quite frankly, I'm glad that all the doors slid the way they have, because otherwise we would not, the four of us, be here today.
That's true. I agree. Right. I mean, and we wouldn't be who we are.
No. And, for me, I essentially have two sliding glass doors moments that
I know you do.
Connect. But Ty, you bring up something for me that I just it just crystallized in my head, and that is a lot of sliding glass doors you've got me saying glass doors now. They don't necessarily have to be glass, people. Yeah. Okay. To be fair.
Well, the real thing is if they're see-through glass, then you know how to commit.
Well,
right?
that's true.
You can see through them.
Yeah, exactly. But I also have a wonderful history of walking into glass doors that I don't notice through there. So again, me and my gracefulness. But there's often, not always, but often there's a tinge of melancholy or regret at times to these things. My moments are this. So yeah, I was a roadie. And I worked in the music industry as both a roadie and a performer, and I was a club DJ for many years. And yeah, that opened some doors for me, right? I was friends with a couple of the biggest DJs in our market in southeastern Wisconsin, and I would often get called up and, said, one of my DJ friends, hey, we got a couple spare tickets. Do you want to go to X or Y? And I'll give you a pass and all that business. So, in the late 80s, when I was a musician, this was the era of Stevie Ray Vaughan and, Austin City performance and all that business, right? And I was a huge fan, and I had been steeping myself in a lot of music that was surrounding this new blues guitar explosion and exploring people that I hadn't really been familiar with. People like Wes Montgomery, people like Buddy Guy, who was really coming up at that time as well, right? And I was a huge Stevie Ray Vaughan fan, but I was ashamed that the only time I'd ever seen him live was either in concert footages, in music videos, or that, the big Austin City Limits that really blew the lid off of Stevie Ray Vaughan. Mm-hmm. And, Stevie Ray Vaughan, of course, very famously suffered from a terrible bout of drug and substance abuse, both alcohol and drugs, and had just gotten clean and had released an album with his brother called Family Style, which is still one of my favorite albums. It's a fantastic album. And he was doing this huge show for him at Alpine Valley Music Theater in East Troy. Now, I had been a denizen of Alpine so many times, both as an attendee and working there. And I knew a lot of the people, a lot of the permanent staff at Alpine. And one of them was a really good friend of mine who was a security guard at Alpine. And I had a gig that day DJing a wedding. And I did that. I was done at 4:00. It was a very polite wedding that didn't have a whole lot of fun attached to it. So it was over very early. And I remember I got home at about 4:30, and my pager went off to call a friend of mine, right? And so I gave him a call, and my friend Terry said, "Hey man, do you want to come down to the last night of the Stevie Ray Vaughan show?" Now, to be clear, Stevie Ray Vaughan was playing. Eric Clapton was playing.
Yeah.
Buddy Guy was there. Robert Cray was there.
Oh my God.
It was just...
It was a who's who.
It was mental. And I was like, yeah, I do. And I literally hung up the phone, got in my car. It's about an hour 45 to Alpine. I got there at about 8:30. And, was passed backstage, got to talk to Buddy Guy. He was very sweet dude. There were so many people backstage, and I was just literally standing there dumbstruck. Robert Cray was on the back line getting like some shiatsu massage thing going on. Bonnie Raitt was walking around backstage. I didn't even know she was supposed to be there. She's not even on the bill. She was just wandering around backstage.
Just hanging out. Yeah,
she's about that tall.
When you got a bill of that magnitude, you can count on the backstage being pretty packed.
Right? And everybody was so nice backstage. You'd think that like all these no, everybody was totally cool. I did not see Stevie Ray Vaughan, did not see Eric Clapton at the time. So show goes off, and goes off great. They close with this ridiculous version of Sweet Home Chicago that it just blows the roof off the dump, right? But I'm standing backstage and I'm looking out, and the crowd is the mental crowd that you'd think, but I start seeing these literal clouds rolling down from the top onto the crowd. And that happens sometimes when the weather shifts at Alpine and you've got this mass of 30,000 bodies generating heat, and the cool air coming over from the ski hills comes in, and everything condenses and you get this weird fog. And I was like, oh man, this is going to make driving out of here an absolute bitch. And there's been times I went to a Deep Purple show when I was in high school there, and it got really foggy. And normally it takes you, even with packed crowds, it takes you an hour to get out to the highway. I remember the Deep Purple show, it was so foggy, it took us 2.5 hours to get to the road. But I was like, this is going to be like that Purple show where it's just going to take us forever to get out. And the show was over. It was about an hour and a half afterwards. And I was still milling around backstage because I was letting the crowd go. And I suddenly see Stevie Ray walking with somebody. And he was on the other side of the stage, on the other side of the back line. And I just remember this thought in my head going, you got one chance. You got one chance. What do you say? What do you say? What do you say? Come on. And I went, West Montgomery rules, really loud. And all of a sudden, Stevie looks around, and I was just, hi. And I remember him. I started walking over, and he literally does, come on, kind of like, yeah, I'll talk to you, but hurry your fat ass up, come on. And he said, how do you know about West Montgomery? You don't look to be the right guy. And I was like, my last name's Montgomery. And I'm completely starstruck. I'm just absolutely apoplectic with anxiety and joy that I'm getting to meet Stevie Ray Vaughan. And I talked to him for about 10, 15 minutes. He gives me all the time in the world, which I'm just like, wow, that's really nice. And I was like, are you sure I'm not holding you up? And he's like, no, don't worry about it. Hold on a second. And he goes, is that bird ready to go? And somebody gives him a nod, and he's like, all right, man, listen, I do got a jet. I got to take off. It's been an absolute joy talking to you. I didn't even ask him for an autograph. I had a couple of the J-card insets from cassettes with me in my pocket. Could have. But he's like, I got to go. It was a pleasure talking to you. Thanks so much for your support, et cetera, et cetera. And I wobble out of the place, and I get to my car at the top of the hill, and I'm just like, it's going to take me forever to get out of here, and there's nobody here. And it literally took me 2 hours with nobody else to get out to the freeway again.
Because of the fog?
Because of the fog. It was so crazy. Yeah. And I was like, wow, this is mental. This is, it's going to take them forever to get the buses out. I wonder if they're flying helicopters. And I get home at about 5 o'clock in the morning and crash out. And I had
Bad choice of words.
I had a stereo. Sorry, you're right. I had a stereo that had an auto on feature, and I used it as an alarm. And I remember the stereo.
You literally woke up to the news, didn't you?
I literally woke up to the news, and it came on, and I heard my dear friend, who is a very big, still a pretty big disc jockey in southeastern Wisconsin, Marilyn Mee. She works for KTI now, but she was on WLZR back in the day. And I remember the radio came on and it said, we'll have more reports from Alpine Valley as they become available. And I went, fuck. And I ran upstairs and I flipped on the news, and it was Jerry Taff on Channel 12 and saying that all lives in the helicopter were lost. And Stevie was in it. And that was something that sent me into my other sliding door moment, that horrific thing. I had been out on the road off and on for about 4 or 5 years. And I went, you know what? I think I want to go to college. And I literally, 4 months later, went up and applied at UWWC.
It's a terrible idea. Yeah.
Well, yeah, exactly. Look at the rabble it put me with.
Yeah,
I didn't want to say anything, but
yeah,
it's not my fault.
Yeah, it literally put me here. It literally put me at University of Wisconsin, Washington County back then, where I studied with Dr. Peterson, and going to UW Washington County literally is one of the reasons why I'm here in Oregon, because I met a number of people. We learned how to code HTML back in the day by hand.
Oh, that was a mess, wasn't it?
Started up a company called Webcom Development Company.
Yeah, you guys were cutting edge, man.
We were out. We didn't even have an edge to cut yet. Everything was very blunt.
Yeah, there was no edge even yet. That's
no,
right.
We're talking 93. We were writing HTML by hand.
Seriously,
It was like making.
Notepad.
It was like, because I was also a web developer back then. It was like making cut paper art with those little rounded scissors that they give you in kindergarten.
Yeah,
you can run with those.
That's what we were doing.
Weren't the dinosaurs still alive back then?
Oh yeah, we were dodging velociraptors all the damn time. But really, that put me out here, and I remember the day, Mark, when I had just done my first semester at Marquette. My ill-fated trip to Marquette after I left Washington County, which of course I got in a little bit with your help. But I remember I had fallen in love with somebody who lived out here in Oregon. Yeah. And I remember I showed up at your office and I said, we need to go have lunch, and Mark and I would either go to Sherry's, which was odd, or Subway, which was pretty much the safe go-to.
Pretty much.
But we went out, and he's like, "What's going on?" And I was like, "So let me tell you about my bisexual pagan girlfriend that I'm going to move to Oregon for in about a week."
I probably immediately said, "That sounds like a great idea."
Actually, very similar. You gave me the story of remember the fire story, where if you're going to light your life on fire, do it so dramatically that no matter what, you can step back and go, wow, would you look at that fucking burn?
Burn it down, baby. Yeah.
And honest to God, that was easily 3/4 of my impetus to go.
I will put a pin in that. That was Peter Churchill told me that story when I fell in love, and it was like I thought I might be just mentally ill, and Churchill told me this great story about when his third or fourth wife left him, and he drove in. I'll spare you. We can save that for another time.
Yeah, but we're on to a good future topic. You guys are describing what I've always called an Etch-a-Sketch moment, where you take your entire life is drawn out on the Etch-a-Sketch, and you just pick it up and you shake the hell out of it.
Yeah.
Well, I'm putting you on prohibition for coming up with any more moments, Chris.
Yeah. That's a sketch moment.
You know what? Honest to God, I think this is a great place to end. I'm still here in Oregon 23 years later, and we're all together because honestly, if any of us would have made any different decisions, who knows? We would have disappointed 13 people by not being able to do this show.
Plus, Gwyneth Paltrow, by the way, Gwyneth will be watching us.
Stop. How did we lose somebody in the course of the show? That's what I want.
Oh, you're right. I'm sorry. 14. I just,
this is the plus one.
I assumed that Chris's girl didn't call. Anyway, we're done. We're so over this sliding door bullshit. Anyways, we are the Hats. This is the Narrowband Broadcast Network. Do us a favor, like, click, subscribe, all that good business. But honestly, folks, until next time, keep your hat on because we may end up miles from here. Thanks a lot, everybody. Take care. See ya, and bye-bye.
Well, there's a chunk of time you can't get back. From Portland, Oregon, and Milwaukee, Wisconsin, this has been Keep Your Hat On, a big little show about a whole lot of nothing in particular. Keep Your Hat On is a Narrowband Broadcast Network production in association with AndrewScottMedia.com. Andrew Scott, executive producer. Robert Anthony and Chris Vacano, associate producers. Our theme music was written and produced by Andrew Scott, along with guitar help from Ron Kajawa. Website design and maintenance by Vacano Creative. Chris Vacano, webmaster. Available at vacanocreative.com. Audio and video production by Andrew Scott. Available at andrewscottmedia.com. Got ideas or comments for the show? Email us at talkback@kyhopodcast.com. And don't forget to like, click, and subscribe. On behalf of the boys, I'm your announcer, Mr. Brumage. Thanks for listening. I guess.
Oh, you all right, bud? That's a hazard of going big. Anyone want a one-sided Christmas tree?
Whoa, yikes. Whoa,
Oh my
yikes.
goodness.
Hey, wait, that doesn't feel right. I'm pretty sure that's not the right port for that. That's not where that goes.
Was it good for you?
Jesus Christmas crackers, I think I can taste my spleen.
Wow. Why does everything smell like burnt eggs?
NBBN. The Narrowband Broadcast Network. The focus is on you.